Hey there, good people. This is Kirby Obsidian, and I'm here to do a video about music, recorded music, and mostly about jazz, but not just jazz. Uh, there are quite a few podcasts that I like to check out every now and then, mostly about jazz, and they're wonderful. But sometimes I want to say, well, you talked about this album, how about that one? Or you talked about this artist, how about that other one? And uh, and sometimes I just think I could do I could do better. I got better music. But anyway, I'm not going to go there. Um, it's not a competition, but it's about maybe a different perspective because as you know, if you're watching this, music is just such an amazing thing. You know, isn't it weird that just vibrations in air that hit your eardrums can have such an effect on you? Can just totally change your mood? Can it inspire you? Can energize you? Isn't that kind of weird about we human beings? Anyway, so these are my this is my record collection. I've always thought of it as a healthfully big collection, but I realize, from looking at all the podcasts out there, I realize it's a pretty modest collection actually. There's one of my cats sitting on a box of vinyl. I separated those out because my wife is not that crazy about my jazz, so that's where I put all the ABBA and the you know James Taylor. She's like, anyway, but it's music I love too. But so that's the only reason it's there. It's only segregated so she can find what she wants to listen to when she wants to listen to it, because she's not going to go through this. So anyway, I thought maybe a good way to get started, as opposed to what are the 10 greatest albums or the 10 greatest fusion albums or whatever, is just to go through what I listen to. And so usually when I play an album, I won't re sort it. I'll just kind of put it here, and then once I have about this many, I'll put them back in where they belong. And I was starting to do that the other day, and I've been thinking about doing this podcast, but I didn't know where to start, and I figured perfect place to start. Just go through what I've been playing, and we'll kind of take it from there. So the last album I put on, Flora Purim, uh, Butterfly Dreams. Great. I don't know if you know Flora. She's not one of those people I hear a lot about when I listen to other people's podcasts. A great vocalist, one of those vocalists with a kind of instrumentalist style, and I love her. And that's one of her early efforts, Butterfly Dreams. It has a lot of great up tempo musicianship. It also has some softer stuff. Anyway, George Duke, the great George Duke. I love the blues. She heard my cry. Funky, soulful, uh, great compositions, great musicianship. I'm not sure what happened to Brother George, but that's from like the mid '70s. Most of this, a lot of my music, most of us, we develop our real passion for music in our teens and early 20s, and that's usually the music that sticks with us. Well, similarly with me, uh, I'm 71. I was born in 54, so I started really getting into music in the mid 60s. My parents always had music in the house. They both loved music. My mom was a songstress, uh, heard a lot of music at home, and then started to branch out and buy my own records when I was like 13, 14 years old, and I still have those. And a lot of this music is more from the 70s than any other decade by far. Then also into the 80s, early 90s, they stopped making vinyl, and I kind of stopped buying music. Most of this is going to be 70s, but then, as I got into my late 20s and 30s, my taste started to go backwards too. So I started to discover music from the earlier 60s and the 50s. I don't have much of anything before the 50s. And you're not going to see much newer stuff here because I'm just doing the vinyl. Steps Ahead. Fantastic. This is called Modern Times, and this features Michael Brecker on sax and Eddie Gomez. Fantastic acoustic bassist. One of my favorites. Great album. This is, I think, it might be their first album. Great album. Joni Mitchell, the Mingus album. I hear so many people talking about Blue, and I never hear any mention of anything else in terms of her great albums. And Blue is certainly a great album, but I think this is equally great. And I think Hissing of Summer Lawns, is that the name of it? Fantastic album. The album that Coyote is on. Anyway, Mingus. This is Mingus wrote some tunes for Joni Mitchell and invited her to do something with them. And this is what she did with them. She wrote words to them. It's probably some of the last music that Mingus heard. He died before it was actually completed, but apparently he liked what he heard. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous album. Jaco Pastorius, Wayne Shorter. Joni is one of those non-jazz artists, or artists you don't think of as a jazz artist, who incorporated a lot of jazz in her music and used a lot of jazz musicians. Great, 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 great album. A more traditional, this is one of the artists I knew of Horace Silver from way back. One of the very first albums I ever got was a compilation album of Blue Note tunes, and I fell in love with The Kicker. Horace Silver's The Kicker. But I didn't really follow through and get more of his music until quite a bit later. But this Song for My Father, Horace Silver had such a simple style, but so fluid and so melodic, and just a great composer. Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions. This is my favorite. This is my favorite Stevie Wonder album, and my favorite Stevie Wonder tune is "Too High, Too High." Just anyway. Now here is one that's fairly new, recent. This is Esperanza Spalding. I think this is her first recording, and this must be from 2000 something, 2006, 2005. So I do every now and then. I'll go out and I'll buy some new vinyl. Not a whole lot, but Esperanza Spalding, I just fell in love with her when I first heard her, and this is a beautiful album. Of course, I should just stop saying it's a beautiful album, because the fact that I'm playing it means I think it's beautiful, right? Everything here I think is beautiful, so I'll try to cut down a little bit. Another Miles Davis album. This is from when he This is from shortly after his return to public performing in the 80s. It's not one of my favorites, but I like just about everything Miles did. Buffalo Springfield. This is an album, like probably 10 or 15%, maybe even 20% of the albums in my collection are albums I got from people, friends who were discontinuing their collections. And rock music, I've listened to it all my life, but I didn't early on buy much of it at all. Didn't know a whole lot about it. I knew the most popular stuff, but didn't know, the other stuff. And this is one that I probably got, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. I only knew of Buffalo Springfield as a name, and I knew that Neil Young was with them. Anyway, great album, glad to have it. Mingus. Okay, so this is one of Mingus's albums from the mid '70s, but in it he does versions of a couple of his classics like Better Get It in Your Soul and Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. Better Get Hit in Your Soul is actually the title, and Goodbye Pork Pie Hat, which is one of the great tunes of all time. And it has a nice long composition, which I think is the 3 or 4 shades of blue. What I really love about Mingus, one of the outstanding qualities to me, is that his music is raw. He doesn't process it too much. He doesn't prettify it too much. There's there's this expression when someone a sister cooks some real nice greens, you say, oh, she put her foot in it. Well, you can, when you listen to Mingus, you could tell he put his foot in it. The fingerprints, the footprints are all over his music. And so kind of everything Mingus does has that raw quality. This is one of my favorite fusion albums, as in jazz rock fusion, cause it really it drives, and it's funky in that rock funk sort of way, and the musicianship is amazing. I love Chicory is one of those people. I love everything he ever did, but in terms of the fusiony hard, this is probably my favorite of that bit of music. Miles Davis, A Message to the People. I'm sorry, Buddy Miles. This is my introduction to Buddy Miles. Back when I didn't know a whole lot about Hendrix. I know more about him now, but back then, it's real weird. When I was coming up, music was very segregated in a way. And because Jimi Hendrix was mostly playing rock, me and most of my black friends weren't listening to a lot of Jimmy. It was rock music, and it wasn't soul music, it wasn't funk music or whatever. So I didn't even know. Anyway, Buddy Miles is kind of the closest I got to Hendrix for a long time. And this is a big, thumping, funky, powerful, driving music. And going against what I just said, one of the best tunes on here is from the Allman Brothers, Midnight Rider. He does a great version of that. Joan Armatrading. She had that big hit way back, I guess in the early 70s, and I don't know if she ever had another commercial hit, but she's done album after album after album of great music. I didn't know anything about Joan Armatrading until a girlfriend took me to one of her concerts, and I just fell in love with her. She's from the island of St. Kitts, by the way, which is little tiny, one of the tiniest countries in the world. Where my first wife is from. I have the pleasure of visiting there. Joan Armatrading. This is one of the earliest albums I know. It's one of the albums my parents had. Not this exact copy, but listening to Coltrane, I fell in love with Coltrane. It's some of the earliest music I actually just fell in love with. The technique, those running those scales, the flurries of notes. They talk about what was the phrase they used with Coltrane? Sheets of sound. Um, Man, anyway, this. I think anybody would love this album. How could you not? The Cape Verdean Blues. So this is another Horace Silver album. I won't say more because I've already talked about him. George Duke. I already talked about him. More. This is a lot of funk, but more than funk. His melodies, his harmonies, great, great album. Fleetwood Mac. This is I probably don't have to say anything about this because I guess it's one of the most famous best-selling albums of all time. This should be one of the greatest best-selling albums of all time. Most people don't know don't know anything about Michael Gregory Jackson. I don't think I've ever heard him mentioned on any of these jazz podcasts. He wasn't. He didn't make it big. He was kind of performing and in the Boston area when I was living there. I never saw him live, but I believe he was local to that area. I'm not actually sure. But this is a great album that's a little bit progressive, a little bit avant-garde. I mean, it goes beyond your kind of um, you know traditional bop, hard bop. Anyway, it's a beautiful album. It's one of I said I wasn't going to get into this, but it's probably, if I had to pick 50 favorite albums, this would probably be one of them. King Crimson, In the Wake of Poseidon. When I started to get into rock, the music I most got into was rock that had a jazz improvisational fusiony element, and this is fusion from the rock side as opposed. But yeah, great album. In the Wake of Poseidon, all of King Crimson's music, I really developed a strong liking for them. As despite what I said about most of the music being from the 70s and 80s, as I got older, I started to realize, well, there was great music from earlier. Let me, even, besides the Coltrane and the Horace Silver, I didn't know a lot about earlier music. This happens to be an album, one of those that my parents had. And I remember when I bought this album many years later and put it on and heard Jeep's Blues, it like immediately, it was one of those things, it immediately took me back to being, 7, 8 years old and hearing this music at home. Um, this album, it has a long cut diminuendo and crescendo in blue, which is like a rouser, and it's apparently the album that generated new life and new popularity for Mingus. 1956, I believe, at Newport. Miles once said that if he wanted to, he could put together the greatest rock band. And if you doubt, listen to this one. It's too jazzy to really probably succeed in a commercial way. But man, oh man, in terms of the musicianship, John McLaughlin, Billy Cobham, it's a great album. Clifford Brown. I knew nothing about Clifford Brown until I was probably 50. And when I heard this album, it was like, wow, how did I miss this for so long. Beautiful tone. He has this, his trumpet tone, so different than, Miles or Freddie Hubbard or John Cherry, or, it's just uh, this roundness and this bubbly kind of rich, voluptuous kind of quality to his playing. And some of the tunes on this, especially Joy Spring, I absolutely love this album. More Clifford Brown. He lived a short life, so he didn't get a chance to record a lot. Now, I was talking about the rawness of Mingus. To me, War brought that same quality to soul. There's a funky rawness to it, a lack of polish which enhances it. It's gritty. It's you could feel it. It's not of the studio. It might have been recorded in the studio, but it doesn't feel like it. Great album. This has that long Gypsy Man on it. This one of the great original fusion classics. I probably don't have to say anything about it. I will say that one of the things I love best about it, and I always, when I'm doing one of these things, I totally lose my brain stops on me. Who is it? Harvey Mason. Oh my God, Harvey Mason's drumming on this. If you listen to Chameleon, when it goes into the break, and there's this long interlude before it comes back to the main theme, the drumming on that, I just love that. Another fairly new one, Courtney Pine. I really liked some of the stuff I was hearing and streaming from Courtney Pine, so I bought 2 or 3 of his albums. This one is another post 2000. It's probably one of the only 2 or 3. Still at least 15, 20 years old probably. Great album. Herbie Hancock. As I started to go backwards from the music I was loving, Herbie Hancock was one of those people. His earlier stuff, before he got into fusion, I guess around the time he was in Miles's group. Anyway, great. I guess you'd call it, I don't know, what would you call it? Modal jazz. Anyway, beautiful, mellow. Great album. Steely Dan. I think Asia used to be my favorite. Well, Asia is still maybe my favorite. Anyway, this is maybe my favorite too. Steely Dan. That's another group, Steely Dan, that uses a lot of jazz artists, which probably has a lot to do with how and why I gravitated towards them. John McLaughlin. This is a great post Mahavishnu album from I think the mid 80s, where a lot of guest artists, a lot of great tunes, sizzling guitar playing. Lena Horne. Probably not the Lena Horne album I would pick if I just wanted one, but Lena Horne, great voice. The Friends of Distinction. Now this was a kind of a popish pop soul group from the 70s, and I liked some of their stuff. They did like Grazing in the Grass they're not. I wouldn't have gone out and bought this album, but my aunt in Detroit my aunt Irene worked for RCA for a while, and she'd get free albums, and she gave me this, and I just love this album. There's a great version of People, the song made famous by Barbara Streisand, and Jessica Cleaves. Sister got a voice. She she was with Earth, Wind, and Fire in the early days. She was with Parliament Funkadelic, I think. You know, she never made it big as a solo performer, but my God, what she got some pipes. And this is a great album, Friends and People. Sly, there's a riot going on. I'm so frustrated with Sly. He was one of the main. Sly and the Family Stone was one of my favorite groups all through, like, you know, junior high through college, and I only got to see him once, and then I didn't get to see him cause his ass showed up like 3-4 hours late, which I guess was kind of typical of him back then. And my girlfriend was staying with her brother, and the subways was gonna stop running, so I had to take her home. So I missed Sly. His ass finally did show up and perform, but too late. Anyway, I still love him. Great album. Dewey Redman. He became one of my favorites. Dewey Redman, probably best known for being the other sax in Ornette Coleman's groups, but and he's the father of Joshua Redman. But I love me some Dewey Redman. He's got that raw thing going too, and rawness and funk together. Really, really, he does some great stuff. This is one of his kind of mellower in some ways, but I like a lot of his albums. Diane Shore. I became acquainted with her. She was kind of around the Seattle area when I was living there. Never saw her live, but I actually, the first time I ever heard of her was she was performing, I think, in the White House, I think, or one of those government type things, and literally, she opened her mouth, started singing, and brought tears to my eyes, which happens every now and then, but not a whole lot. Got a gorgeous, gorgeous voice. Early Weather Report. Real early Weather Report. This is their original incarnation when they had Miroslav Vitus on bass. They've had a whole bunch of great bassists. And this is their more kind of ambient, but powerful all the less. Like not ambient in the sense of what became ambient jazz later on, but this was before they got into the Birdland type of thing with Jaco. But beautiful stuff. This group, Weather Report, much like Return to Forever. And even the Mahavishnu Orchestra, those are groups that evolved. They had different sounds. They'd put out, 1 or 2 albums sounding one way, and then they'd get it and they'd sound a whole different way. So Weather Report was one of those groups. And these days you only hear the kind of mid-term Weather Report. This early stuff, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Worth listening to. Sly, this is when he made a comeback. He never hit it big again, but this music is really so similar to his earlier music. It's really it fits right in to the stuff he was doing years earlier. This is one of my very first albums. That's CK. I put these labels on when I was in high school. So some of the first albums I bought. And this was, man, Les McCann and Eddie Harris. Their groups showed up at Montreux. and they decided to jam together, and this is the result. It became one of the most popular albums. You probably know this album. I probably don't have to say it, but it has that great version of Compared to What, with Les McCann singing and the band just jamming behind them. Great album. And the Mahavishnu Orchestra. Now, did I play some Mahavishnu Orchestra? Did I? Okay. Anyway, this is their first album. So this was, this is with Billy Cobham and Jerry Goodman, the later Mahavishnu. Yeah, I think I did go through another one. That was post Billy Cobham, when Michael Narada Walden was drumming. He filled the shoes, and John LaPonte replaced Jerry Goodman. So this is the earlier version. This is considered their best. Usually, when all these podcasts I see, I'm not sure it's their best. It's one of their best, but a lot of their albums are their best. There, how's that? Steely Dan, love me some Steely Dan. They have they used a lot of jazz musicians that I already mentioned. That I think I'm starting to repeat myself. Okay, last one. Wynton Marsalis. Wynton's one of those guys. You know, when I first heard him, I was watching some television show, and he was with Herbie Hancock. This was probably 1980 or 1981, and it's just like, damn, this dude is tight. This dude is the monster, and I love his playing. But I'm not as old school he is in terms of his taste. So one of the things I love about this album is he kind of stretches out into the slightly more progressive, stretches a little bit more on this than on a lot of his other stuff. Anyway, so that's an introduction to the music I love, the music I've been playing this last month. So I'll resort these, put them back, and start again. And I hope to do more videos where I'll focus in a little bit more. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you'll be back next time. Bye for now. Kirby Obsidian signing out.